Hi and welcome to Ask Cam, and this is an Ask Cam consumer and Christmas consumer especially special. So I'm joined by the lovely Jav from our consumer service.
Hi.
And we're going to be talking today about all sorts of things like consumer Christmas, returns, what happens when things get cancelled, all of that sort of stuff. If you are tuning in live and you want to ask a question, we are taking your questions live. Please just drop them in the comments box wherever you're watching, and we will do our best to answer your questions live. But first and foremost, Jav, can you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the consumer team and what you do?
So my name's Jav, and I'm one of the supervisors on the general consumer team. So on general consumer, we deal with everything consumer related. So any issues that you've got with the trader, any holidays that you've booked, transport issues. Basically, if you've purchased anything, then and you've got any issues with it, you can come through to us, and we basically give you the legislation. So we offer free legal advice on all things consumer and how you can pursue it up until the court process.
Yeah, that's great. That's all, and we know it's a really handy service to have. So we've got Christmas coming up. Obviously, we know that means a lot more spending, a lot more like going out and doing a lot of shopping, but maybe not necessarily going out. So again, lots of shopping happening online, and we know that for various reasons, there's a lot of delayed deliveries at the moment. What can people do? What are people's rights essentially if that's the case, if something is delayed or isn't delivered?
So usually when you purchase online, you'll get like a delivery date. So if they say expected delivery date is in like 2 weeks, for example, and then it doesn't arrive, then you can hold the trader in a breach of contract. Alternatively, some are just estimated delivery. So if it's just an estimate, under the Consumer Rights Act, you can argue that they're late on delivering. You've got up to 28 days for delivery. If it doesn't arrive, then you are eligible for a refund within 14 days.
Okay, that's good. So so essentially, if things go a little bit wrong, it's not the end of the world. Like as long as you sort of get it in the end, then you can potentially fight for a refund. That's really good to know. And if people if they're sort of exchanging gifts and maybe this thing that you get isn't particularly what you wanted, maybe, or it's the wrong size, or it's all of these reasons that sometimes we get gifts that just aren't quite the right thing. What can people do if they want to return something that they've received?
So first things first would be to check the trader's terms and conditions, see what's in there, because a lot of them during the Christmas period, they do have like an exchange policy or an extended returns policy, anything like that. So check the trader's terms and conditions first of all. If there's nothing in that, then it may be a bit of an awkward conversation with the person that purchased it for you. And then you can go down what's called the Consumer Contract Regulations, where you may be entitled to a 14-day cooling off period for online purchases. But again, Christmas returns policies are usually extended anyway. So it's definitely worth giving us a call so we can check what your rights are. If obviously you do have that issue, to avoid that awkward conversation with the person that bought it for you.
Yeah, that sounds great. Have an awkward conversation with us instead. That's fine. No, that's really good to know. Thank you. And this is something that happened to me personally, so this is why we ended up putting it in the live stream. But if you've bought a Christmas gift and in between sort of buying it and then you need to return it, and the trader has gone into administration and therefore it's a little bit tougher to return your goods, what might your rights be in those sorts of situations?
So obviously, believe it or not, we have got a lot more now coming up with a lot of online traders that once you've purchased, they have now gone into administration, gone into liquidation. First things first would be to check Companies House for all registered traders, and it'll say what the status is on there. If they've gone into administration, there'll be contact details for the administrators. You can always contact them and arrange to get the money back through them because they're employed to handle the finances for the company. Okay. Alternatively, there is the Insolvency Service. So it's a government organisation, and they basically look into dealing with the finances and basically giving out all the finances to unsecured creditors or people that are owed money from that company. So that's probably your best option. But again, you can always give us a call. We can have a look into it, pass it over to trading standards as well. And again, obviously try and help you get that money back.
Yeah, that's great. I think it's always that sort of reassurance of certainly like something hasn't just completely disappeared, and you will be able to sort of get your money back in some way, shape, or form.
A lot of as well. One thing that a lot of people do miss out on is, say, if you paid by a credit card, you can always go back to your credit card company, depending on how much, what the value of the item was or the purchase. If it's over £100, then you can always go down the Section 75 of the Consumer Credit Act, or with a debit card, there's always a chargeback as well, so you can always go back to the bank as well. So there are options available.
That's great. Good to know. And yeah, that's exactly what I did. So that's good to know that I'm taking the right course of action. So obviously that's a lot about like online shopping. We know that sort of is happening. What about travel? Because again, we know that sort of travel is facing quite a lot of disruption over the holiday period. People probably have like booked transport to go home or to go and visit friends and family, and maybe that's not going to be possible anymore. What are people's rights when it comes to cancelled trains and or flights, depending on how they're getting to different places?
So essentially it's a contract where you've entered into for a service, or you've paid for a service to be carried out. If they're not able to offer that service, you can hold them in breach of contract under common law, in which case the two remedies that are available, you can either look to end the contract without penalty, which is pretty much just saying getting a refund, or set a deadline for them to honour the agreement. So you can look to maybe book it for another day maybe, if that's available, but most people then look to go down the route of just ending the contract and get your money back. If you've had to then purchase like a little bit more of an expensive ticket, you can also look to pursue for damages, which is another fancy way of saying any extra financial loss that you've incurred.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, no, I think that's, again, good to know for people who sort of, it will feel very distressing, I'm sure, for a lot of people who've had like various different travel plans cancelled or delayed for a lot of reasons. You know, it's not just about the money, but at least I guess it's that thing of if you can't actually do the travel, at least you're not going to lose out financially.
Yeah.
And then finally, I think we sort of something we really wanted to make sure we covered was scams at Christmas. You were saying when we chatted last week that essentially we're seeing quite a lot more scam activity coming through. What sort of things are we seeing, and what should people be looking out for?
So what we're seeing a lot more of is like doorstep for like a lot more vulnerable people. So like elderly, a lot more sort of vulnerable in the sense of like they've got disabilities, they're very reliant on sort of carers or people that come around. What you tend to see is that these people, these rogue traders as we call them, are sort of working their way through sort of residential areas where they know there's a lot of elderly people there or a lot of vulnerable people. So one thing that we would definitely advise is to check in on like your elderly parents, grandparents, just to make sure that they're not entering into sort of any contracts that they're kind of being pushed into, or like precious, kind of like high pressure selling. So where they're coming, knocking on the doors, telling them that the roof needs doing, for example, or they've got gardening work that needs to be done, which really didn't need to be done, and then they end up paying out a lot of money. They struggle to get that money back because they've agreed for that service. But definitely check on your sort of families. Always make sure before you enter into a contract or agree for a service is to get terms and conditions, and any like cancellation rights as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's we know that as well, like the sort of telltale signs always are if you're feeling like you're being pressured into making a decision there and then on the spot, then it's probably something to be a little bit wary of, I guess. And especially given that, I suppose with having had a lot of bad weather or like this sort of spell of really cold weather, that, you know, it might be almost an opportunity that scammers can walk around going, oh, you know, it's because of the snow, you've got various different like bits of damage to your roof or damage to your gutters or something, and things that people might be, sort of, it feels feasible, it feels really like possible that might be happening, and therefore like it's just easier for them to kind of work their way in. As well, like we're seeing more of the parcel scams, because I'm always I know at this sort of time of year, if I've done loads of online shopping and I'm like, I get various notifications, the sort of text messages that say, oh, this person's going to deliver you a parcel, and I'm like, that could be happening. I don't know.
No, we do get a lot of them as well, where you're getting a text message to say your parcel's been rescheduled. obviously whilst a lot of people are online shopping at the minute, most of the time, we'd say if you do get a text message saying to make a payment or to enter any sort of personal information like card details, is always check back with the trader. So go back to the trader that you've ordered from, double check before pass on any card details, because majority of the time they won't ask for repayment for delivery. So that is a big one at the minute as well.
Yeah, that's sort of, I think we know that scams tend to be a little bit seasonal, don't they? That certain ones come up a little bit more at particular times of the year, and as you say, like different kind of doorstep scamming kind of is unfortunately is a bit of a year-round thing, but kind of swells at different points. And certainly, yeah, the parcels, because as I say, it's so easy to like lose track sometimes of what's coming through, and it feels really reasonable that might be a parcel you've actually ordered. I guess the key message is, isn't it, if you're not sure, take a breath. Don't like rush into giving anyone like any kind of details until you're sure that you know what you're doing. Wonderful, thanks, Jav. I think that's really helpful, and that's some really sort of crucial tips in there about, you know, how you can get money back, or like potentially your rights over Christmas. I think probably really good for people to recognize that, you know, there is often a course of action. I think it sometimes can feel really difficult, can't it, when you know, you sort of something goes wrong and you don't quite know how to put it right. It can feel a little bit overwhelming, but just, I guess, good for people to know that there is a service out there for people to turn to. I'm just going to pop our consumer line number up on the bottom there, so if people do want to get in touch with us, they can give us a call. We are sort of open basically other than bank holidays all the time over Christmas, and obviously into the new year as well. So if you do sort of have any queries that you want to contact us with, please do get in touch. Jav, before we wrap up, is there anything that you kind of particularly wanted to touch on, or anything else that you wanted people to know about before we go?
Just with the kind of just having a chat with a lot of the advisors to see kind of anything else that we've been getting. One that we would definitely recommend a lot of people to do is check where they're ordering from. So a lot of the times you'll go online and think that it is a UK company that you're ordering from, but in actual fact they're not covered by UK law, and it's covered by like a different country's laws, in which case we wouldn't really be able to advise and you are a little bit stuck. So one thing is always check your terms and conditions.
Yeah, definitely. It's so easy, isn't it, that I think the joy of internet shopping does mean that you've got access to a lot more stuff at your fingertips, but also does mean, unfortunately, that you can be reaching stuff from outside of UK jurisdiction when it comes to consumer rights. So yeah, just be careful when you're making those purchases, and if in doubt, give us a call and we'll see what we can do to help. But thank you so much for your time, Jav. I hope that's been really helpful for people tuning in. This is probably the last live stream of the year for us. So wishing everybody a really wonderful festive season, no matter sort of what you're celebrating or how you're celebrating. And we will see you in the new year. Have a wonderful rest of 2022. Bye.
Bye.